Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to Estonia once again, a country that I always enjoy talking about because I had a blast when I was over there with some really quite nice people. But we're going to visit a brewery that I've wanted to review for quite a long time, but their beers I've just found a little bit difficult to come across, both in Sweden and back here in Scotland. So for this one we're going to do my first review from Pohjala Pruulikoda, who are from the capital city Tallinn, and this one is their Metz Black Forest IPA. This one's from their Forest series of beers. It's a 7% black IPA, as you may have guessed from the name, but they've added spruce tips and forest blueberries to this one, so it should be really nice. It's rated 96 overall and within the style of rate beer, which obviously tells you it's going to be a really quite nice beer. So it's always cool to review beers from Estonia. Estonia has quite a burgeoning craft beer scene these days, and Pohjala were really one of the kind of pioneers of that. It's probably fair to describe Pohjala as the kind of brewdog, I guess, of Estonia. These guys are the ones that really kind of kicked things off and inspired a lot of other people, so hopefully I can go back to Estonia and try some of the smaller breweries for you at some point in the near future. But really cool to review my first beer from this brewery, and I hope you guys watching over there enjoy this review. But anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my future reviews that hopefully I can do from Pohjala Pruulikoda. This is the very first time I'm trying one of their beers, of course. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do subscribe to the channel. The whole channel has a geography based tagging system, of course, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city or state, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. I will make one for Estonia once this video publishes, but as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries you guys would like to see me review, especially if you're watching from Estonia. But your support and your input to the channel is always hugely appreciated. So anyway, just a little bit then about Pohjala Pruulikoda. So as I mentioned to you, Pohjala are based in Tallinn in Estonia, and the company was actually founded by Peter Cake, N. Parel and Green Nurmitz, and they were later joined by Tiit Pananen. And the group actually went on a kind of fact-finding mission to Brewdog in Scotland because they considered them to be one of the best breweries in the world at the time, and it was there that they encountered Chris Pilkington, who was actually from Mintlaw in Aberdeenshire, where a number of my chemistry classmates from Aberdeen were from, and he joined them as their head brewer. He'd actually graduated in marketing, but was a really avid home brewer, and he said that from the outset, when he met these guys, he really wanted to be part of growing the craft beer scene in Estonia, and so he jumped on board with them, and it's really just history from there. But they opened their brewery in May 2014 in the Numa district of the city, and this one had an initial capacity of 12 hectolitres, but it's since been scaled up quite considerably. But the exports of the Pohjala beers began in 2015, and now the brewery are quite widely known throughout Europe. And as I say, you have to give these guys credit because the beer market in Estonia, really it's dominated by Saku Alehtihas and Alakok, who take up 90% of the beer sales, but Pohjala have really started to push people and kind of raise awareness for craft beer in Estonia. And like I say, there's a lot of different little breweries there. You've seen me review a beer from Lea Pruulikoda before, and now we have Pohjala as well, so hopefully, like I say, I can go back across and review some of the other Estonian craft beers for you fairly soon. So definitely looking forward to this one. I've heard this beer is really good, so I'm looking forward to tasting it for you. So just to give you the specs of this beer then before we open up. So like I said, this is a 7% black IPA. It's hopped with Magnum, Amarillo, Columbus and Mosaic. It does mention Yellow Sub hop blend. I'm not sure if they are using that blend in this one or they've added that on top of the ones I've just read out to you. It didn't really make that clear on the website actually, but it's got a malt base of pale Munich Cara, Cara 150, Cara 300 and black malts, and they've also got Carafa Type 2 Special and flaked barley in there as well, and they've also added spruce tips and forest blueberries to the brew, as I mentioned at the start of the video. So it should be a really nice beer. If you want to go and read a little bit more about the brewery, of course, and the other beers that they do, you can check out the brewery website in the description below. From what I gather, this is one of their kind of specialist series. But I'll just bring up the camera and let you open up and let you have a little look at the artwork on this one. It is quite nicely presented. There you can see some pictures of the Black Forest, of course, obviously referring to that. The Schwarzwald in Germany. I actually lived very close to there when I was in Heidelberg, but very nicely presented. You can see this is the typical kind of Pohjala symbol there, and that is also on the bottle cap. But a very nicely presented beer, some interesting hops and things in this one. It tells you a little bit about it on the side. It says a forest-inspired black IPA brewed with hand-picked spruce tips and forest blueberries. Pohjala beer, or www.pohjala.com. beer. So should be a really nice one for us to try. So without further ado then, let's get this beer out and we'll get on with the tasting. Definitely looking forward to this beer, of course. So yeah, nice smoky opening there as we open this beer up, and we'll get it out and into the glass. And I tell you something, you can really smell some of the nice fruity character from this beer as you open it up, but it's poured exactly as you'd expect from a black IPA. That's a lovely kind of ebony rosewood colour that's come out in this beer. If I hold it up to the light, it does have a little bit of a ruby edge to it. You can smell a lot of the nice dark malts in this one, but also some of the fruit coming off the beer. There's some big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, but mainly it's actually very small bubbles that are sticking there, and a lot of them are just going up towards the bottom of that head there. So there's about a finger of a frothy, kind of beigey tan head on this one. It's really nice looking actually. And it's, you know, a lot of lacing left on the glass there. It looks absolutely lovely. As you can see, if I put my fingers behind the beer, there's no transparency to this one, but I guess if it was a bit lighter, it would be crystal clear. It doesn't really look hazy at all, but absolutely lovely looking beer, exactly as you would expect from a black IPA. So let's have a look at the aroma on this one then. Oh yeah, that smells really nice. So you've got this kind of, the typical kind of black roasted malt base on this one. There's a good bit of sweet chocolate in there as well. You can smell the kind of toasted brown sugars coming out as well. So as I say, roasted black malts, not quite coffee-ish, definitely a kind of toasted black malt in there underpinning the beer. Some roasted kind of brown sugars in there on top of that, some chocolatey malts, maybe even a little bit of licorice actually coming out of this one. But it smells absolutely lovely. You can smell the sort of citrusy hops in this one just coming out and mixing in with that. There's a little bit of a floral aromaticity to this one, but to me it really does smell more citrusy than anything else. Yeah, quite a strong citrusy note from this one. There's a bit of a kind of red fruit coming out for me too. Maybe a teeny little bit of grapefruit or something in there. But yeah, no, it definitely smells quite floral, a little bit, not quite resinous I would say, but there's a good bit of floral, sort of aromatic character to this one, the kind of orangey, maybe a little bit orangey citrus in there, but you can smell this typical sort of citrusy character that you get with the black IPA style. And you can definitely pick out a little bit of the sort of blueberry character in there. Blueberries, of course, tend to give you a slightly more tart character than blackberries do, and you can definitely pick up a little bit of that in this beer. Blueberry, of course, I absolutely love blueberry juice, so I can always pick up the aroma of these when they're in beer, so it's really cool to find a beer that does have this added to it. I'm not picking up much in the way of a resinous character. I was expecting that a little bit from this one with the spruce tips that they've put in the beer, but maybe there is a little bit of a woodiness to this beer, and that's maybe where it's coming from, is the spruce tips, of course. Definitely a bit of woodiness, just on the kind of back end of the nose as you smell this one, but it looks absolutely lovely. It smells great, so as I always say, take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beer before you try it. The aroma is always half the experience when it comes to things like whiskey and to craft beer, so definitely do that. But let's get stuck into this beer now then. This is the Metz Black Forest IPA from Põhjala Pruulikoda in Tallinn over in Estonia. Terveyseks. That's pretty damn good. You know, I watched a little video on Põhjala Pruulikoda, and Chris Pilkington, he was saying that they do like to specialise in their black beers, and just from one sip of that you really can see the kind of care that's gone into this beer, so it's quite interesting. But this beer has a good bit of sharpness to it. It's actually really nice. It has kind of everything you would expect, and I do like it. Like, as the kind of aftertaste in this one is sort of, as it's kind of progressing, you get the roasted black malts just pushing their way out a little bit more. The beer starts to get more and more bitter as the flavour progresses, and you can feel some of the sort of resins, that maybe that's the spruce tips just pushing their way out a little bit more as the flavour progresses. It's really interesting how it does that. You know, for me, the black IPA is always an interesting style, because I do know people that like to drink a few of these, but for me, really, this is another beer that I would just taste, because I do like the style, but it's not one that you want to kind of drink you know, a few in a row of. I do like just tasting these beers for enjoyment purposes rather than as session beers. But I do, as I say, I know people that do like to do that. I never understood that. But the black IPA and the Imperial Black IPA, it's a kind of beer style that you know, in the old days you would never really think about, but somebody just kind of stumbled across this one day, and it worked for some reason, and it worked really well. And this one is certainly no exception to that rule. This is really quite nice, actually. So, in the middle of your palate, where you're going to find the malty characters from the beer, there's a sort of brown bready base to this. You can feel that just underpinning the beer. But as you move into the more central part of the palate, that's where you're getting these roasted black malt flavours. You can feel the sort of malty bitterness in this one right in the middle of your palate. There's some kind of roasted brown sugars in there. You can pick up a little bit of the sweetness there. But there's a nice, just right in the middle of the palate, I'm getting quite a bit of a roasted, not quite coffee-ish bitterness, but definitely a very roasted black malt character. There's just a good bit of bitterness from that in the middle of your palate there. A little bit of sweet chocolate, like I said. Yeah, definitely a bit of sweet chocolate in there. But then it's just the sort of roasted bitterness, as I was saying, just starts to push its way out as the flavour progresses. In the back corner of the palate, I'm getting a little bit of earthiness, but as you come further forward, you start to feel the kind of dark floral aromatic character from this beer. It's a little bit spicy, and then you can start to feel the sort of pine resins just pushing their way out of this beer a little bit. The sprucey character, more than anything, it's probably not pine resins, it probably is that sort of sprucey character. You won't get pine resins generally from the hops that are in this beer. Maybe a little bit from the Mosaic, of course, but it tends to be more a sort of spicy floral aromaticity you get from that hop. But this is really nice. You can feel the sort of citrusy characters just mixing in with the black malts and the hoppy side of this beer. It blends together very, very well. So as I was saying, the earthiness in the back corner of the palate, it smooths out as you come further forward, but then you get more of the floral and kind of spicy character from the beer. There's a little bit of grassiness as you go around the edge of the palate, but interestingly, I'm getting a wee bit of earthiness just on the front of the palate there too. But of course, one of the most interesting things about this beer is going to be the fruity character that you're getting from it. So just behind the front curve of the palate, that's where you're going to find the little oily bubble where all these hop oils with the fruits come out. So in this one, I'm getting a good little bit of kind of, there's a little bit of orangey, a kind of strong, almost orangey, or maybe even tangerine. Tangerines I always find are a little bit darker than oranges, but there's this sort of tangerine orange citrus just underpinning the fruit oils in this beer for me, and that mixes really well with the sort of floral character and with the kind of black malts that are coming out in this beer. It really does go together very well. And there's maybe a little bit of a red fruity ester to this one, but you can definitely pick up the flavour of the blueberries. You can feel it just right on the front edge of your palate. Of course, one of the things I always point out with beers, when you add fruit to the brew, the fruity flavour comes out on the very edge of your palate. At least for me it does. It comes out on the very edge of your palate rather than in the same place where the kind of fruity oils come out from the hops. So that's one way you can always distinguish what flavours are added into the brew and what ones are coming naturally from the hops. So that's an interesting thing, and as this beer progresses, you can pick up a little bit of these blueberry flavours on the very front edge of your tongue. So it's really nicely done, this beer, and I do like that little bit. The blueberries just add a nice little aftertaste to the beer, and as the aftertaste progresses, it's the earthiness that's coming out, a bit of the floral character, and the kind of roasted black malt flavours in the taste of this one, along with just a little bit of that blueberry flavour. But overall, like I said, a very, very nice beer. I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink this one again, and on the basis of this, I would love to try some of their other beers, especially the IPAs or something, to get a good feel of a brewery. I always feel that you've got to try one of their darker beers and also one of their lighter ones. So this beer really makes me want to try one of their lighter IPAs and see how I get on with that. But this beer really is very nice, and as it starts to warm up and as it kind of opens up when it's in the glass, you can really feel the malt base just starts to thicken up in this one. But overall, it's a really quite nice beer, this. If you get the chance to try this one, the Metz Black Forest IPA, then definitely give it a go. It's got some really nice characteristics to the beer. So in terms of the mouthfeel of this one, I'd say It's probably fair to describe this beer as mid-bodied. The carbonation is kind of what you'd expect, a sort of moderate carbonation. There's a little bit of an oily mouthfeel to this one, but at the same time it has a little bit of wetness to it. There's a good malty bitterness to this beer. As I was saying, the black malts just kind of underpin everything that's going on. The sweetness does take a little bit of a backseat. There is a little bit of chocolate and a little bit of brown sugar in there. But really, it's the kind of the sort of roasty black malts that are kind of taking the forefront of this beer. There's a good bit of bitterness from the hops, as I was saying, some earthiness and some floral character in there as well. They continue into the aftertaste as well, and there's a good little bit of juicy fruity character too. The notable point, of course, is the addition of those blueberries there, and you can pick that up right on the front curve of your tongue. But there is a little bit from the hop oils as well, mainly a citrusy character for me when it comes to the hop oils. But overall, a really nice beer. In terms of its rating that it has on Rate Beer, 96, I could agree with that. It really is a very kind of strong beer on this one. To me, the one thing I would say about this is that if it had a few more ABV points on it, maybe if it was up at like 9 or 10%, that could kind of make it thicken out a little bit, and maybe just even with a slightly oily, more oily mouthfeel, it would be even better. But as it is, it's a really quite nice beer, and I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink it again. That kind of comment is almost really nitpicking at the beer, but for me, it's a really good beer. It certainly makes me want to try some of the other Pohjala beers, and I certainly wouldn't hesitate to go back to it again. So yeah, if you get the chance, try the Metz Black Forest IPA. If you like your black IPAs to be really kind of roasted and black malty bitter, then this is one you're certainly going to enjoy. And if you like sort of earthy hops and floral and citrusy character, again, from this beer style, this is one that you're going to enjoy. So yeah, as always, I hope you've enjoyed my beer review. Thank you for watching. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Do let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. This is the Metz Black Forest IPA from Põhjala Pruulikoda in Tallinn over in Estonia. Hopefully I can return to Estonia sometime soon and try a lot more of the Estonian craft beers for you. But in the meantime, it's been really cool to try this one, and I will catch you very soon. Tervesex for just now.